Hello everyone, welcome to MuleSoft training by Geeks. In this video, we'll see how to consume messages from ActiveMQ using a JMS connector and MuleFlow. In the previous couple of videos, we've seen how to install and set up an ActiveMQ, and we've also seen how to publish a message to ActiveMQ, right? So if I take you one step back, so we have this ActiveMQ broker running on my machine. And we were able to successfully install it first, and we were also able to publish a message to this flow, publish a message to this ActiveMQ, a queue. We've created a queue. In fact, from the Mule application, we've created this queue and published a message to this queue from a Mule application that we have built in a previous video. And this message is pending to be consumed now. And what we're going to do in this video is we'll create a brand new application. We're not going to use the application that we have published a message from, because if I do it, there's nothing that stops me from doing it. I could use consume here, create a new flow, and I can consume the message from the same application itself. But that will act that will act like an inter-application communication or within the app communication. But yes, you could use JMS for inter-app communication as well, but it is mainly used for inter-app communication. So what I mean by that is you're publishing a message from this flow, but if you want to consume it in a completely different flow or a different application. Okay, so I want to show you how to do it exactly. So let me stop this application, which is running at the moment, and this is a publisher that I have built. Okay, and we have built this in the previous video, wherein we are receiving a payload and we are publishing it to a Geeks queue. Okay, and let's create a new project to consume that message. And let's call it a consume JMS Mule application. Mule project, consume JMS Mule application, finish. And I want to schedule this flow to run every 10 seconds as an example. So what I want to do is I want to schedule this, add it as a scheduler. And every 10 seconds, I want to go, sorry, I mentioned 10 minutes earlier, it's 10 seconds. So I want to schedule this flow every 10 seconds so that it goes to the queue and checks if there is any message to be dequeued. And if it finds one, it will dequeue the message and it will process it. Okay, so it will pull out the message and it will process it. So there are other options available to consume a message from a queue or a topic. You have something called as on new message in the JMS connector. We'll see how to use it in the next video. But in this one, yes, we're building a flow, which will be a scheduled one, which will get triggered every 10 seconds. Okay, so that's about the scheduler. And what we want to do, we want to consume a message here from the JMS ActiveMQ, add module, add JMS to the project, and use the consume operation. We've used publish operation in the previous one. Let's use a consume operation in this one to consume a single message from a given destination. Okay, so use consume. And let's create a connector configuration. Use local file. And you select the jar file that you have in the ActiveMQ download folder. Use that. And configure this exactly the same way we have configured it in the publisher. Use admin as username password. That will be the default one unless you change it. But the default password of ActiveMQ would be admin and admin. Go to factory configuration, edit inline, and let's use this broker or use this broker URL. Test the connection. Since the ActiveMQ is up and running, you should see a positive response here. And what we are going to do is we're going to consume a message from the Geeks queue from this application. or in this application rather. Okay, so the connection is successful. Click OK. And it says that there is an attribute called destination that you need to populate. Yeah, we're not yet done with the configuration. We just created the connection. We've set up the connector configuration and we have to fill in the other details. So you are trying to consume a message. So a Mule application wants to know what is the destination, from what queue do you want this to pick up a message from. So you can mention Geeks queue here because that is a queue name in which the message is pending. Okay, so use the same queue name. And you can also set up a consumer type. And the consumer type is going to be a queue consumer because we're trying to pull a message or consume a message from a queue. And you see a selector in here. So in a queue, there could be many messages. So in case you want to consume different messages in different applications based on some criteria. So if you go to the queue, and if you look at the messages, there is something called as priority. If you see there is something called as a priority. So if you want to say handle high priority requests in one application and handle applications with a less priority in a different application, you could do that as well. So you could configure the selector here. You could probably say priority equal to 3 or priority equal to 4, so that only the messages with that particular priority from the queue will be consumed. Okay, so you can use this as a filter if you want, but that's something that you can probably explore. Okay, so all you have to do is here. We selected the destination and we selected the consumer type. That's all we have to do. And let's add in a logger component and let's print the payload to the console here. Add a logger. Let's print the payload. Okay. And there is since we are scheduling this, every 10 seconds it goes and checks if there is any message to be consumed. And if there is no message to be consumed, this consume operation will typically throw an error saying that there is no message to be consumed. So to suppress that message, just for the sake of the demo purpose, what I do was I'll add in an on error continue, and I'll just put a logger message and I say there are no more messages to process. There are no messages. There are no pending messages to process. And I will also uncheck this option to stop the exception from getting logged. Because every 10 seconds, if there is no message, you will have an exception logged otherwise. So I'll take it off. And all I'm trying to do in this flow is, I've scheduled it to run every 10 seconds first up. And I'm trying to consume a message from a Geeks queue in the local ActiveMQ that is running on my machine. And in that queue, there is a message pending at the moment with the CT details that we have posted in the previous video. Okay, and we're trying to log the payload. So you should see all the CT details getting printed here in the logger. And that's it. So we have this consumer ready, and we have created the publisher earlier. So let's test this consumer as a standalone one first, because there is already a message pending in the queue. So let's activate this flow, and we are activating only the consumer flow at the moment. And it'll ask you what application do you want to launch. So you can launch only one of them, or you can launch both of them. So what you can do is you can go to new. Sorry, you can run it as a standalone one. Run it and select only the consume JMS Mule application, and this will initiate only this particular application, or this will deploy only this particular Mule app. And once this is up and running, you should see that immediately you should see this message getting dequeued, and you will see the entire payload getting logged here since we're logging it. Okay, so that successfully establishes that yes, we were able to consume the message. And remember, that is a message that has come from a different application altogether. And that's how applications, and that's how you can make applications talk to each other with the help of a JMS connector. So let's wait for the application to come up. It should not take more than 30 seconds from now for the application to be up and running. Okay. And as you can see, the moment application is up and running, you could see that it was able to identify that, yes, there is a message in a queue, and it consumed that message. And since we have logged that to the console, you could see that entire payload getting processed here. So you see the payload here, you see the logger printing the entire payload here. And this is the exact payload or exact message that we have in the queue. So if I take you back to the queue, and if you do a refresh here, you should see that there are no pending messages now. There was one pending message when we activated this consumer, and the moment this came up, it consumed the message and it has been dequeued. Okay, so this is how you could make applications talk to each other. But what we have done so far is we have tested them a standalone, right? So initially we have built the publisher, published a message to queue, and then we have built the consumer. Now let's do one thing. Let's test the end-to-end flow. So let's bring both the applications up, and let's invoke the publisher, and the publisher should publish a message to the queue. And the moment message is published to the queue, the consumer gets triggered. And remember, this is a different application altogether, and you could plug in whatever process you need or whatever logic you need in that other application. So it's like you're passing message from one application, publishing message from one application, and consuming it in an entirely different application. And let's see how to do it. So let's see how the end-to-end flow works. So to demo that, first I need to stop this application. Currently, only the consumer is running. And if you see, every 10 seconds, it is printing a message which says there are no messages to process, no pending messages to process. Well and good. Let's stop this project. And it's little bit tricky to consume two applications. Sorry, it's a little bit tricky to start up two applications in the MuleTime in one go. So if you try to activate it, it will bring up only this project, this application. And if you do it in the publisher, it will bring up only the publisher. But that is not what I want. In a single Mule runtime server, I want these two applications to be up and running. So to achieve that, what you could do is you could do a right click on any of them, and you can do a run as, select the run configurations. And in the run configurations, you can select what applications or what projects do you want to launch together. Okay, so yeah, I want to launch the publisher as well as a consumer. I want to launch both those projects at the same time to the Mule runtime so that I could test the end-to-end flow. Let's select both the projects to launch. This will be slightly tricky, guys. So do a right click on any of the project, select run as option, and then select both the publisher as well as the consumer applications here, and click on run. It will take a little bit longer since two applications need to be deployed. and they should be up and running. So let's wait for that 1 or 2 minutes. And once these two applications are up and running, what we're going to do is we're going to invoke the publisher from a Postman tool. We're going to pass in again the same city details, and we're going to kick off the request. So this publisher would put the message in the queue, and the moment message reaches a queue, consumer gets triggered, and the consumer the consumer flow gets triggered. Remember, this is a different application, and in there we are just logging the payload. Okay. So that's how you can achieve the inter-app communication between applications with the help of JMS. Okay, the application should be up and running anytime soon. It's initializing consumer at the moment. Okay, let's wait for 30 more seconds. It's initializing the publisher. Now consumer is up and running. So once the publisher is also up and running, you will see a final message which says, yes, these are the applications that are deployed and up and running. Yeah, you could see the consumer up and running as well as the publisher. So in the consumer, we didn't use on new message option that is available in JMS. We have used a scheduler. In the next video, we'll see how to use on new message option. But yeah, since the consumer has a scheduler, which makes it run every 10 seconds, you're seeing this message. And what message do you see in there? There are no messages to process because yes, the publisher is not publishing anything. So the consumer has nothing to process at the moment. And we'll test these, the end-to-end flow now. So we will kick off a publisher now. We will invoke the publisher with a message that should go to queue. And from the queue, it should be consumed by this consumer. Okay, let's see if it works as expected. So I'm invoking the publisher here. Send the request. You could see the response back. And if you go to AnyPoint Studio, I could see that there is a logger message printed now. And so what happened in the background is, yes, the publisher published the message to the queue. If I take you to queue, if I do a refresh here, you will see the number of messages enqueued and dequeued getting changed to 2. So if I refresh it, you see that message gets changed to 2. So the publisher published a message, and that message has been picked up by the consumer application, and the consumer application has printed it to the logger. Okay, so this is how you could make applications talk to each other as a publisher consumer with the help of a JMS connector. Okay, so yeah, in the next video, I will show you how to use a new option, not a new option, and another option that's available in the JMS connector that is called as on new message. Okay, so let me show you. So if I go to JMS here, you see that there is an option or operation called on new message. You can use this operation to kick off the flows, to kick off the Mule flow whenever a new message arrives in a particular queue. So this will be a better option than a scheduler to use in a consumer. Okay, so we'll see how to use on new message operation in the next video. Please join me in that video. Yeah, thank you very much for watching this one. In case you're interested in MuleSoft training, please call us on this number or send a WhatsApp message. Thank you.